Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, a weekly motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news, specializing in track days, club racing, and great entertainment. We truly do it all. And this week we are brought to you once again by Working Class Customs, the YouTube channel, and the Custom Fabrication Shop out of Northern Utah. If you have any more questions on that specifically, you can ask Cole.
And I'm Cole.
And I am Easton, and we are your two favorite hosts of your favorite weekly motorcycle podcast. And Cole, I noticed you got a fancy hat on your head.
Oh, man, I was hoping you would notice.
Oh, I definitely noticed. You can't walk around with a hat like that without me noticing.
What is this hat I'm wearing, Easton?
You know, real quick, before I say that, I am going to tell you, the audience, that if you're not watching because you're listening and you found us on a podcast platform for listening, which is great. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Click that follow button. Head over to the YouTube channel, Working Class Customs. Check us out. Throw a subscribe on the YouTube channel. Watch an episode or two here or there because there are some tidbits and pieces that you can't catch in the real world. And on the opposite side of that, if you're here with us on YouTube, feel free to not stick around for the entire show. But down below, in the description section, there is a link to our RSS feed, which will take you to whatever podcast platform you like to listen on, so you can listen there and not have to sit here in front of your phone for 2 hours watching, because we understand that. But back to the hat. It's gold and black, or black and yellow, as some might say, if you're old enough to remember that great song. It's got some letters inscribed on the, I guess it's not inscribed, but letters on a banner. A D, a U.
Sound it out.
An Dunlop.
There's no E on the end.
Oh, Dunlap.
It's an O.
Michael Dunlop.
Michael Dunlop. Bam.
Dunlop. What happened there? How did you earn such a?
Yeah. How do you get these hats? See, we had a whole discussion on this podcast however long ago, and I know it's a pet peeve of yours.
It is.
It's a pet peeve of yours that somebody can just throw one of these hats on if they didn't properly
earn the hat.
If they didn't properly earn the hat. Well, we properly earn the hat.
Well, heck yeah. That's what's up.
We like that. We like Dunlop, not all those other words you said. Shout out Trackstar Racing, the local Dunlop supplier at USBA, always taking care of us. Love the service that's provided for us there. Sticky rubber, putting it on the podium.
That's what's up. So we can get more into the hat, I guess, a little bit after the intro, but
let's stick on the hat. Let's finish. So I was told that this is a Dunlop club level podium hat.
Okay. Yeah.
You got to win a national event to get the other fancy one with the leaves and the sparkles and the whatever on the bill. What do you call that?
Okay. Usually they're just oak leaves. The filigree, maybe. I don't know if that's what you would call it. But...
Yeah. Supposedly the filigree is reserved for national events.
Okay. That was my question, because I would think maybe, per race you get a standard, and then if you win a championship, maybe you get the filigree, but national also makes sense.
Yeah. And the ones you see around that are black and white, those are the giveaway hats.
That you don't have to win anything for.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Cool. So there is still hopefully a little bit of, I guess maybe it's just, I've been spending a lot more time at racetracks around racers and things like that. I don't want to say it's flooded, but, as you said, it is a pet peeve of mine when I see someone wearing a Dunlop hat that they might have just bought somewhere because they think it looks cool and they don't have they didn't earn it, right? A hat like that needs to be given to you because of something that you did, because it marks, as you mentioned, you put it on the podium today, which is freaking awesome. Congratulations. You got a hat. You now have the right to wear that hat, and I'm proud of you for that. That's awesome.
Nice.
Anyone else that hasn't won a freaking race yet, keep the hats off your freaking head until you win. And on that note, let's roll the intro and get into this week's episode.
Let's roll it.
Yesterday, at one point, I was in sixth. Miles an hour.
And we're back.
We're back. I still don't have a hat because I haven't won a race yet, and I am not a poser.
And I want to touch one more thing on the hats before we move completely off of that subject.
Okay.
You'll be even more happy to know, because I know, like we said before the break, it's important to you that they're worn properly, so that they mean something.
Yeah.
You would be very stoked to know. I think I've mentioned it on here before. I'm going to mention it again, but at least at the USBA, the Utah Sport Bike Association racing events, the tire wars have heated up, and it is fun to watch. I think it's good for racing at a club level or any other level, but you start getting tire companies competing for riders. You start getting maybe some more sharing of the to make sure that a particular rider gets on your roster. Those kind of things start to happen.
Right.
And the USBA in particular has started paying. They have some two paying classes this year. And it's been interesting to watch Anthony. I'll give him the credit here on bringing it maybe to the forefront, but making sure to let the people know that are taking care of him, making sure that they get their shout outs on the podium, other, social media, all those kind of things.
Right.
But he is a Dunlop guy. So I've noticed the Pirelli guys are now getting into it, right? They want to make sure if they're, the occasion that a Pirelli guy gets on the podium, they want to make sure that he's got his hat on too, right? And I won't mention any names. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I thought you would appreciate. There was a gentleman that they were giving a Pirelli hat to, and they had some hats. He was a podium, somebody that was on the podium. They were trying to give him a Pirelli hat, and he said something to the effect of, "Oh, I already have one of those hats, but I'll take this one." And he grabbed a blue Michelin hat that was in the stack.
Okay.
He grabbed a blue Michelin hat, and it had the filigree or whatever we're calling it on the bill. And that was immediately snatched out of his hands, and he was told that was for first place people.
Good, as it should be.
So
that one looks cool. Yeah, but you don't get it. You're not fast enough. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting. It's fun watching the tire wars heat up. It's just a whole nother aspect of what racing is, and it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's awesome that even at the lowest level, to be quite honest, a club race, and USBA is not a huge club either. Only got one track, and yeah, we got you got a couple different configurations, which is awesome, but not a big club, so it's cool to kind of hear about there being competition at the lowest level. That's good. That's really good for the sport. So that is awesome. I love it. Well, that does that wrap up the hat? Are we good on the hats?
I think we're good on the hats.
All right, sweet. You guys let me know, you that are listening and our club racers in the audience or people that have opinions on the matter. Let me know what you guys think about the hats. I know, back in the day, the first time I saw a yellow, it was the old non-flat brim style. It was a yellow Dunlop hat with black lettering and the black leaves on it. I was like, man, that's a freaking cool hat. Where could I get one of those? And I only saw one person with it. It was the same person, and he always wore that whenever he was at a motorcycle event. And I went home and kind of researched it a little bit, and I realized, like, oh, no. Okay, you don't buy that. That guy won a race or a championship or something crazy way back in the day. So it's cool, and I think it deserves that respect, and it needs to stay like that because it's something a quick way to tell someone apart from just an average rider or an average racer to like, nope, this guy's done something. He earned a hat. So, and once again, congratulations, Cole, on your step up into the big leagues hat. Did have a quick question for you though, because you mentioned that USBA has some paid classes, correct?
Correct.
So, at what point do you become a professional racer, vice an amateur racer?
I don't see that it changes the rules at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to that. It's interesting to me because I mean that's a question I've asked a couple times because in other sports, Aquarius sports like with horses,
Equestrian, yeah,
equestrian.
Aquarius would be like water, but yeah,
Oh man, that's a song.
water horses.
Aquarius. So I know that there's a lot of sports that once you get paid, you have to be pro.
Yeah, but it's not. Well, does it? You have to be, or you get to be? Like I am professional, blah, because I get paid to do it.
You have to be in certain sports. You have to be
Okay,
if you're, you know.
you have to register as I am a professional. So I just wondered because like you go out and if you win a purse of let's call it $100, right? Which maybe that's accurate, maybe it's not, but whatever, $100. But your registration for the weekend is 300, and you're paying $1,000 or more in tires over the weekend, and you paid for some fuel, and you paid to get down there, and all these things. Like, yeah, okay, you won $100. You can take yourself out to dinner tomorrow. And no, I don't think you're getting paid to race yet because it still costs you a lot more to get there. Like it's cool. Don't take the purses away. It's awesome. Give something a little more for someone to fight for or whatever.
I
It's
slit
awesome. The
somebody's throat
businesses
for
are giving out.
$50.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. So I was just curious. I guess once again to the audience in the comments, let us know what makes you a professional
No,
in motorcycle racing
in
specifically.
motorcycle racing. No, it's just something I've thought about. I mean, I know I forgot what the number is now, but I know I had to look into how much you had to win before you had to claim it on your taxes. There is a number there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, that's wrapping up our little the beginning of our club racing segment. I think we'll come back to that in a little bit, but we do need to talk about this week's weekly riding tip. If you're ready for that, Cole, do you need any tips? You got a hat on now. Are we done with the tips because of your?
No, we're not done with the tips. I mean, I got bagged on so hard for last time I tried doing a tip that
Yeah.
we're just gonna stick it to you guys that or leave it to you guys that know. So what do we got?
All right. Well, this week's weekly riding tip, once again, for you guys, brought by Bittinger Motorsports, which is private coaching to build solid riders through vision-based training. We got a pretty good tip. A little short this week, but still good. Let's talk about screwdrivers.
What?
Kind of. Not screwdrivers specifically, but when you're using the screwdriver grip with your inside bar hand, don't forget to pull your outside hand up against the grip stop. That extra inch or two will allow you to open up your shoulders and get your head down that last little bit. And that is the tip. So inside hand, you
Yeah,
wrap it
dude.
around and do the ice cream cone. I can't ever do it. I guess it's like that, right? Yeah, that. So you're
Yeah.
saying when you're inside, your outside hand, rather than having it like way out here, you bring it in up against the grip stop, essentially moving your entire upper body that extra inch from initial, right? If you bring your hand in closer, brings your arm in closer, able to move your shoulder further out, able to get your head further down, able to get your entire body further off the bike, look further through the corner, and set yourself up better.
All right, read me the tip again. Let's have it one more time.
Okay. When using the screwdriver grip with your inside bar hand, don't forget to pull your outside hand up against the grip stop. That extra inch or two will allow you to open up your shoulders and get your head down that last little bit.
Okay, noted.
That is something, to kind of go along with that, and maybe maybe Josh, if you have any input on this, at my most recent track day, I have been noticing that I don't get as far off the bike as I used to. And whether or not that's just because I'm not doing as many track days as much anymore, or it could be a multitude of different things. But I also realized that after I wrecked my bike, I broke a clip-on and I put aftermarket clip-ons on. And I had no reference point anymore for where my clip-ons were originally set. So I used to have the little stopper on the inside and I just set them all out to like maximum angle. Well, I got the new ones and I was like, well, okay, wider gives you more leverage. Wider is probably better. Cool, whatever. Set them pretty wide. They were even, right? Made them even and nice. And I was wondering if I have them maybe a little bit too far out. Or so much like not moving your outside hand all the way to the inside of the bar, if your grips are so wide that when you're coming off the bike to one side or the other, your arm, like once you hit full extension on your arm, you're done. You can't get off the bike anymore. So if my handlebars are like an inch further out than they were before, or even only a half inch, I don't know. I don't know how much would make a difference, and if that is possibly part of it. So that was kind of what this tip reminded me of, or made me think of a little bit, and something I'm going to think about adjusting. One of those small things that you adjust slowly, right? Like foot peg position, lever position, tire pressure, clip-on position. So
Nailed it. For those long-time listeners, I finally moved my pegs up.
mm-hmm.
I don't drag my toes anymore.
Hey, look at that. Now you got to stick your whole leg out and drag your toe and then put it back on. Do the leg
We don't.
dangle.
No, we don't want to talk about leg dangling. There's going to be some people laughing right now, but let's move on from that. I'll tell you later.
All right. All right. Well, that closes out this week's riding tip. Thanks, Josh, for getting that over to us. And if you are looking to ride with Josh and Josh Bidinger, with Josh Bidinger Motorsports, there's a link down in the description. Go check him out. Do some private coaching down with him at MSRH, or ride with him through Ride Smart at Coda and a multitude of other Texas tracks. So definitely worth checking out. He's got some good programs going down there, and he just got a sweet new wrap on his big old huge rolling trailer classroom setup. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that
Air
wrap.
conditioned.
Air conditioned. Yep, air conditioned. That wrap looks pretty sweet, I gotta admit. So stoked for him on that. Anyway, we had
You better just go ahead and not skim over the MotoGP fantasy. You might as well get that out of the way now, since you're knocking on death's door.
yeah, I don't know
Sitting
what's going
one
on
spot
here.
ahead of me at this point,
I
scoring less
don't know.
points than me again.
I don't know what's going on. Well, I can tell you exactly what's going on. All of my people are wrecking out and doing terrible. I need a new team, but now I'm running out of money to do it. So,
Welcome to my world.
yeah. Yeah, what Cole is talking about is I dropped another however many places down to 13th. He's in 14th, so we are, making our way to the bottom together. I think you're still in the up. And yeah. What a rough week. What a rough week. But anyway, to cover the top three for this week, in first place, we have Team Thor still holding down first place with a pretty solid lead. 1379. Closest next to them is Triple Three Racing in second with a 1318 and a half. Right behind him, very, very close, is Abelino Guzzi with a 1314. So, and then way down in 13th and 14th, I've got 1,136 points, and old working class Cole Burmester has 1,041. So,
Oh, dang. I'm closing.
yeah, you're getting up there for sure.
Is there still time? Do you think I could win this thing?
Anything can happen. Do you think that Jorge Martin could win this thing? I'm just kidding. We'll get into that in a second. But your points leader for the week, and I'm just double checking real quick to make sure I am good. By not a large margin. UFO team, you almost took it, but points leader for the week. Can I get a drum roll, editor, please? Is Team Thor once again with 171 points. You still haven't reached out to us for your prize, so I think you're stacking up 4 or 5 of them. Make sure you hit us up on Instagram at JKMoto Podcast so we can get you a prize sent over. And that goes for any of the weekly winners of the past. Hit us up, and we will get you taken care of. That is this week's fantasy lineup. I will put a reminder out there if you just started watching MotoGP this week and you're like, oh, what is this whole fantasy thing? You could probably still beat me and Cole, even if you started right now. And you can still win a prize every week based off of the points per week. You don't have to win overall, just points per week. So, yeah. And I will be, well, I'm probably going to forget because we got 4 weeks before the next race. So I'm sure I'll forget to do anything with fantasy and I'll be mad next time too. But I am planning on doing some changes over in my team, try and
I don't
scrounge
have
some
enough
points
money
back.
to do any changes.
That's what I was saying. Like, that's the issue is you start getting down in a hole and then you're just stuck down there. So maybe a small change and a boost or two, get us back up, and then a big change. We'll see what happens. We don't need to share too much strategy here.
Yeah, like anybody's listening to us after looking at those scores.
Dude, I don't know what happened. I was in like 5th, doing pretty good. I've got like a solid line. I'll give my. You guys can see it anyway. I think. I give you my lineup. It doesn't seem bad to me. My gold riders are Jorge Martin and Marc Marquez, which one would argue have been doing pretty good this season.
Right?
And my silver riders are Pedro Acosta and Maverick Vinales, which one would also argue have been doing pretty good this season.
Yeah.
Like for your silver riders, those are the less good ones. And then I have KTM as my constructor, which might be where I'm faulting this year. Okay, but I couldn't afford Ducati, so sorry. And then I have the Red Bull Gas team as my team because, again, I couldn't afford more than that. So I went for riders. So maybe the move in this is to go for a good team. I don't know. But that's the lineup, and it ain't doing so good.
Well, since
Yep.
we're sharing, I mean, I'm sitting on Pecco Bagnaia, who's won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Bastianini, that's been coming on strong.
Yeah.
Franco Morbidelli, who gets better every week.
True. Just a little bit.
And Jack Miller, who I love to death, but I can't afford to get rid of him because I can't find any money and he won't ever pull his head out.
Yeah, he has kind of been a little bit of a letdown this year. It has been sad. I have a bone to pick with you about your boy Jack Miller there. How much MotoGP did you catch this weekend, Cole?
Not a lot, but I did watch both the sprint and the race about an hour ago while driving down I-15. So
Okay.
so I more listened than anything.
All right. So, if you're brand new to the podcast, welcome. We love having you here. Thanks for being here. Please stick around. If you don't know yet, I'm a Marc Marquez fan. I'm going to put that out there because if you don't know, you should know, and it'll become quite obvious. I am a fan. I like to think of myself as a good fan. I've stuck with him for a while, right? I'm also pretty new to MotoGP though, so I will take any hate and discontent that comes my way, and I'll argue it as much as you want me to. But this weekend, one would argue, was Mark's best chance, most likely, as far as tracks go, to get his first win of the season, right? And his first win in quite a while. It did not go so good. Did not go so good. And free practice one or practice one? I think it was practice one. Either one. It had a massive high side, 190 kilometers an hour, which in American non-communist units is something less than that. 190 kph to mph.
I like 140, 130.
118.061. So around 120 miles an hour. He had a high side, flew off, broke a rib or two, or bruised him at least, and fractured a finger. So he did have a fractured left hand. Went to medical. They said, hey, yeah, you're good to go. But because of that, he ended up down in Q1, right? So gets to Q1, heads out in Q1, sets a flyer of a lap, and comes back in immediately because the dude's hurting, he's tired, whatever else, right? Cool. Part of me is like, come on, dude. Like, yeah, people ride with broken stuff all the time. The other part of me is like, no, I get it. Riding with broken stuff sucks. But he went out and set a good lap time, right? So he goes out, sets pretty good. He's holding first. He's holding second, I think, maybe right behind Jack Miller. I don't know. Here comes Ralph Fernandez out of nowhere. Starts setting some freaking flyers. That guy is cooking, as the kids say these days. Straight cooking, right? And so 8 minutes left. Mark's like, all right, I'm gone. I'm not up in the top 2 anymore. I got to go out and set another lap. So he goes out to set a flying lap, gets out, does his warm up lap, good to go, comes around for his first flying lap, is coming into a corner and gets stood up by a Jack Miller freaking silver bullet flying straight through the corner instead of turning into the gravel trap. And I don't blame Jack completely because I actually like huge props to both of those guys for not hitting each other and causing something bad. Because it was about a half a second. If it had been a half a second later, or not even, probably a quarter of a second later, he would have just straight into the side of Mark Marquez at the perfect angle to just launch both of them like into the stands. Like it was bad. But I was super mad in the moment because it threw Mark off, and it threw him off bad enough that the dude just came in, right? So we're at the end of Q1. He's got to get into Q2. He's sitting in third place, and like it ain't gonna work. So anyway, then I'm just sitting there. I'm like, is that it? Does he just give up? Like, is he done? He gets back on the bike and heads back out with like 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So Germany's short, but that's not enough time to do any more than one flying lap where you get points for it, right? Or time.
Right.
So he goes out, does his warm up lap, comes around for his flying lap. And I mean, you can tell he's Mark. It's Germany. He wants that podium, or at least wants to be close to it. He wants to win the race. He's going to do everything he can do. Screw the injuries, screw everything else, laying it all on the line in this moment. Comes around the corner. I don't remember exactly what turn. I want to say turn 5 or 6. I don't know, but I'm more mad at this guy than your guy because here is freaking Stefan Bradl, the Honda test rider, wild card for the weekend so that they can get some more testing in. Out there in Q1, about to qualify, probably dead last, and he is sitting in the middle of the race line, moving out to the outside edge at approximately 10 miles an hour in a 40 to 60 mile an hour corner. Where I'm checking real quick. Yeah, so he qualified second to last, right ahead of Remy Gardner. So anyway, that once again, Mark comes around and is just stood up completely off because of Stefan Bradl, and then ends up in the first place losers section of Q1, known as 13th place on the grid. Does not make it to Q2.
Oh, it's not. It's 12 plus 1.
Okay.
Your boy said it. He won't call it 13. It's 12 plus 1. 13 is bad luck.
All right. Well, whatever. Anyway, so that was my big beef with two separate people in the same session. I was just like, who knows what would have happened? You never know. And he could have bended it again. There's plenty of different things could have happened. So sure, but to be out twice in the last like 6 minutes of qualifying to try and make it into Q2 and to be stood up by two separate people. The Jack one pissed me off less than Stefan Bradl because he's a test rider. He's out there.
What is he
like,
doing?
Yeah, like I don't. Anyway, so that was Q1. Q2 I didn't even watch because, well, mostly because it happened for me, I think, at 4 or 5 in the morning. So I didn't bother watching it. I happened to catch Q1 right before I went into work on Saturday. So anyway, I don't even know where to start. The sprint was great.
Start with the sprint.
So I guess the first big news: Oliveira and Ralph Fernandez qualified second and third. I should mention that, right? We had Trackhouse Racing taking up the last two places on the front row, which is awesome. Jorge Martin did his Jorge Martin thing at the beginning of the weekend. A classic Jorge Martin Saturday. Took first in qualifying. Took first in the sprint. First all around. Good to go. Doing his thing. The Trackhouse boys, Raul was throwing some heaters down in qualifying and just could not keep up all weekend. As far as the sprint and as far as the race, I think he did better in the race, but in the sprint, he's down at 14th. Oliveira was right up there fighting with everyone. Vinales was kind of up there for a little bit, kind of not. And then we'll get to what threw me off about the sprint in a second here. Oliveira in second, Bagnaia in third. And then Bastianini, on your fantasy team, there's your fantasy team right there in third and fourth. So you should be making plenty of points, but apparently we just don't know what we're doing. And then Morbidelli. Where's this guy coming from?
I've been saying forever he's getting better every week.
So I know we keep saying that, or you keep saying that, and we keep bringing it up, but he seemed to actually be
It's like it's like a a Yamaha, which is who Pramac is going to. It's like trying
Yeah.
to start a Yamaha. You know,
Okay.
it's kind of a cold start, some sputtering, some kicking around, maybe just kills again, and your leg's too tired of kicking it, so you go back in the house. And yes, children, you used to have to kickstart things, but we would.
So if you go yellow, you still do.
This is true. Shout out Kickstart Kenny.
Yeah. There's your
So
motocross minute wrapped up and done.
yes, I got my motocross segment in. So it just seems like he's not there yet, but he's figuring it out, and he's giving himself opportunities. They're not all hitting. I mean, he still maybe crashes out of a race here, crashes out of a race there,
Mhm.
but it's there's signs of hope. It's not just. I mean,
So it does seem like there's a more consistent spark again.
yeah, it's
Is the
becoming
way
more
I
and more
would
consistent.
Yeah, is the way I would put it. Because we mentioned, I think it was last season, there was a random race where this guy just took off and was doing amazing. We're like, hey, the spark's back, and then it wasn't. And that's kind of when like my hope just died off. I was like, all right, yeah, no, he's done. And this season, he's like, hey, he's on a factory Ducati, he's going to do great.
And he didn't.
Didn't do so good, right? And now he's kind of starting to get in there. We'll see what ride he picks up for next year. You've got bets on VR46. I'm not going to bet against you on that because I could see it, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, just know that if you're a Morbidelli fan and you haven't been watching for a while because you just can't watch, it's might be time to turn the TV back on and see what happens. But we are coming in the summer break too, so could all be downhill, could be way uphill. Who knows?
Might extinguish his spark.
Who knows? The only sad part is that and I shouldn't say this because same thing for my guy, but he's on a brand new Ducati, and
Right?
so is that making up for it? I don't think so because of how bad he was doing at the beginning of the season on the same bike. So I do think the spark is back, but there is that like little bit of me that doesn't trust Morbidelli to do good on his own. That I'm thinking he's relying on the bike a lot. But I'd say this weekend he's fighting pretty good. He was up there with the boys. It almost looked a little rusty out there in a couple times, but he was
Yeah.
giving it his all. So,
I think he
uh,
pulled what could be called a Pedro.
yeah, yeah, that'd be fair. That'd be fair. Where did Pedro go?
Out of the record books is what he went.
Yeah, I knew that. I forgot what happened in the sprint to him. I was too focused on something else. Did you catch that? He's got him in dead last. I can't remember if he went off, if he was in the gravel trap, if he put it down, picked it back up.
I think he put it down.
Okay, it doesn't have him as a DNF. So 26 seconds behind the lead. So he didn't DNF it, but I think he did put it down. He picked it back up. Yeah, Pedro Acosta kind of just the announcers, they said it this weekend, what
Yep.
I've been saying or what we've been saying for a couple weeks. And they're like, yeah, it was hot stuff. And now no one's talking about him anymore. I'm like, that cracked me up because I'm like, you are the ones. What do you mean no one's talking about him? You are the people that talk about him. Either like you could change that right now.
Right.
But we'll keep an eye on him. Like I said, I still think he's got plenty of talent. I still think he's pretty good.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yep. And next season he'll be, up on that KTM, which is so much better and faster than the gas.
So you hit some key points. As much as I don't like talking about the Marquezes, we did put two brothers on the podium
In the race, yes.
in the race.
Mm-hmm.
That was a first.
Yeah, first time ever, I believe.
That's
For
pretty
them.
cool. Got to be pretty cool for those guys.
Yep.
Mark, if Mark was a real brother, he probably didn't need to pass him there at the end of the race. He could have just, you know, that's
So
a lot of friend on friend action right there. That's teammates,
yeah.
brothers,
Yep.
same make and model of bikes.
Yeah, it was interesting. It almost it's probably a good thing they never replayed that pass because it might have looked like Alex just kind of said, "Okay, whoop, scoot over real quick. Here you go." I
He
don't
got
actually think so, but
he got wobbly.
Yeah. No, it was the race was good, honestly, from Alex and Mark both. Obviously, Mark coming from 13th into second. It's not the first time he's done that this season. Proved that he can still do it. There was an incident between him and Morbidelli, judged as a race incident, which I 100% back up. The first, like when I first saw it, I was like, "What? You're kidding me!" And then I saw it from a different angle, and yeah, there's no way Morbidelli knew he was there. Right? Frankie went a little wide. Marquez saw that gap, tore up into the gap, but he was definitely a little too far back to make that pass stick. And Frankie came back over onto the race line, as you do when you go wide, and was just barely ahead enough that he couldn't see him there, hit him. That threw Mark off. And I had a buddy over here watching the race today, and I told him, I was like, watch, he's been in entire conservation mode now, like up till now. With that, he's done. Tire conservation's going out the window. He doesn't have time anymore. That threw him off. Too bad he's gone.
The red
And
mist.
yeah, yep. Well, and speaking of red mist, the red beast showed up right behind him there. Gave him a little bit of trouble for a while, but he snugged that. Finally got past Frankie. Actually, if you noticed the lap afterward, he refused to pass him in the same corner, even though he could have again. And waited a few corners, got past him, and just tore off for the front. And I think it produced, a great finish. Obviously, it was made a little better by our friend Jorge. Poor Jorge.
So I know you don't allow us to do this a lot, but I do give 100% of the credit. Well, 100's a strong number. The pressure Pecco was putting on him, I know it was said on the thing. I'm just repeating things that the announcer said, but to just follow him lap after lap and to see it come down at will,
Mm-hmm.
and then know that there's 6 laps left.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Anytime he
imagine?
wants, he can pull 2/10 out, no problem.
Yeah. Can you imagine the pressure of trying to keep that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
no,
know
I
that.
mean that's what we were sitting here on the couch watching, and he went down and the race ended, and my buddy that was here is actually a big Jorge fan, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, but the robot seems to be back." And it was a rough beginning of the season, but the last few weekends, one, I think he has recognized that if he needs to take a second place, he'll take it. If he needs to take a third place, he'll take it. But at the same time, he's still going to be there applying pressure, trying to get to first place. And I actually saw a chart the other day of Bagnai's lap times in a race, and it was like 22. There's a 137, I think, for the first lap or something, and then just a 132, 132, 132, 132, 132, 132, 132, 132. And they were like 80% of the 132s were 132.2. The biggest difference between them was 0.4 seconds. I was just like, that is
Insane.
nuts. You're right. I don't call him the robot for nothing. That's he he deserves that name. It'll be an interesting season, and we're coming into the summer break. We get a big old 4-week break before we come back in August. August 2nd, we'll be in England. Hopefully, it doesn't rain, but it might. And the biggest thing I think I'm going to be asking you and asking the audience is, and everyone's going to be asking and talking about, I guarantee it, as soon as we get back, is Jorge Martin losing his Ducati support because he went to Aprilia?
Not yet.
Okay. But if he starts doing bad, is that what it's going to be blamed on? Or are we going to say that Pecco deserves the championship?
We're
If.
never going to give any, but well, I will, but as a whole, the community is never going to give full credit to anybody. There's always a reason. Everybody's always going to give a reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're probably going to talk more about how Mark Marquez couldn't do it because he was on a slower bike than they will talk about how the guy that did it because he's just good at riding. But
Yes.
half the game is getting sponsors, and Mark is good at getting camera time. I will give him that. I don't know how, but he is good at it. Which, when you do come from 13th into second,
Oh, you just had to sneak that in there. Like, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. He did good.
that's pretty
Except,
good.
I think I realized why he likes that track.
Why? I'm curious.
So it's
Short,
because,
fast, lots of right-handers or left-handers.
well, those things are all true. And he traditionally does better on those type of tracks for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
that Turn 13 is just a perfect way for Mark to jump in there and be a dick and push somebody out of the way.
That pass when they're like, "Oh, that's his favorite pass." I had never noticed it that prominently before, but he does quite literally jump into a place and just like,
Force the other person away.
yeah, so completely surprising the other person too. It's not like the guy sees him coming and is like, "Oh crap, there he is." It's like this bike just whoop pops in there underneath you, and you're, whoa, yeah, I'll give you that. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Turn 12 plus 1.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
Well,
I
we
have
got.
to say,
Go ahead.
real quick on the sprint, I was a little mad on the sprint because I got out of work and I opened Instagram and as I opened it, I realized I was done for. I see MotoGP, I see a picture. I was like, well, all right, I'm gonna get home and still watch it, but I might as well look at this picture. And it was two bikes, and they were so freaking close together. And I see a 12 and a 93. It was like, oh, this Maverick and Mark. Mark was in 13th. Maverick was in like, I don't know, 6th or 7th. And on the bottom it says this is what 3,000ths of a second difference looks like. I was like, dude, did Mark win by beating Maverick by 3,000ths of a second? And I just left it at that. I didn't look up anything else. So I came into the sprint with this mad hope of somehow the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, these two are battling back here. I'm like, so 5 people need to crash right now. Like, it's the only way for it to happen. But obviously it didn't happen. But that photo finish was pretty cool. Uh, it doesn't really matter for either of them, I would say. Sure, Mark got an extra, 1 or 2 points out of it. But just having a picture like that in general, that's cool. It's cool looking. So
Yes.
anyway, yeah, I think that'll wrap up MotoGP for us for this week. Then we got to get back into USBA a little bit and cover some action down there. Hey, long break coming up.
But don't worry. We have Moto America, Laguna Seca coming up this weekend.
That's what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
No,
Beat you.
you're good. You're good. I was about to say World Superbike, and I realized I didn't know the schedule, and I was like, "There's a Moto America race. When is it?" Trying to remember. Yep, we got Moto America this weekend. I definitely have a World Superbike somewhere in there. Is there? There's not another USB around actually till August, also, correct?
August 1st or August 2nd and 3rd.
So
But
August is USBA just following MotoGP's calendar?
possibly. Kind of annoying.
Makes it hard to watch the races, huh?
Yes. But, I mean, if we're going to that level, shout out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a conversation. We had a conversation a couple episodes ago, maybe last episode, about no, with Wyatt. We had a conversation about West Coast track or club organizations not having like a WIRA type, something that ties them all together.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, like CVMA is just at Chuckwalla, and yep.
So you'll be listening to this on a Wednesday, potentially, and I will be trying to get back home because I am racing Legion Superbike.
All right, so that is next weekend then.
That is next weekend
Okay, awesome. And that'll be at UMC
at UMC, racing the perimeter.
on the perimeter course, which is wild because if you've raced East and West, you can race the perimeter, but it is a little bit different. So it'll be kind of interesting. That'll be really cool. I'm excited to hear the results on that. I'm sure the audience is also. But I've ridden the perimeter. I like the perimeter a lot. I know a lot of people like the perimeter a lot. I think I've heard from a few, like, I don't want to say older, but older people in the motorcycle world that when UMC was first designed, the perimeter was awesome because it was like a very European style layout. Fast, not too technical, but a little bit big and just sweet. And I definitely enjoy it. So it'll be kind of cool to race it. I'm curious to see, just how your whole weekend goes. Like more laps, less laps? Question mark, because it's more distance.
So they do so typically on a USBA weekend,
Mm-hmm.
we have some classes that are referred to as extended that are 11 laps.
Okay. Yep.
We have the King of the Mountain class, which is
Mm-hmm.
14 laps, but the bulk of all races are 7. on a
Okay.
2.2 mile track. The perimeter for the Legion round, I'm not sure
3.1.
how.
Looking it up. Keep talking.
Right.
You're good.
So Legion, I don't have it in front of me, but they call it a sprint and a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5 laps or 8 laps. So each class basically races. The way I understand it, I'll tell you more after I get back. But the way I understand it at this point is that you have basically a sprint in the morning that is 5 laps for a particular class,
Okay.
and then after lunch you race that same class again, but now it's a 8 lap race.
Okay. Yeah. So you're at 3.048 miles, just over 3 for the outer course. So another 3/4 of a mile. Should be interesting. It will be interesting too, because I mean, then you get the full straight, which is a hefty straight.
Yeah, I'm most excited. I mean, I have to be there. I felt like I needed to be there
Mm-hmm.
personally, just because I'm hoping the USBA represents and sends a lot of people there since it's their own backyard.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious to see how many people are willing to travel for that series out to Utah and how many new bikes I'm going to see.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool. The Legion is coming out for that, and they're all over Colorado, and I think then they dip down into New Mexico a little bit.
Yeah,
No,
they're
we talked about that a little bit too, but
they're definitely based in Colorado, but I think they were racing all the way over to Oklahoma, Kansas.
yeah, cool.
Most of the races are in Colorado, but it was 6 rounds. Last week they announced they lost Pikes Peak Raceway. They
Okay.
had to cancel. There was a scheduling conflict or something that came up, so they've dropped it down to 5 races at this point. 5 races, 5 different tracks.
Wow. That's kind of cool. That's it definitely feels a little rare, especially for your side of the country.
Right.
So sweet. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to like I said, the rundown on how that goes, what the perimeter is like, what the turnout is like, and everything like that. And then yeah, we'll have a little bit of Moto America action out at Laguna Seca and World Superbikes. Let's see, it's the 7th. Yep, that'll be next week, and then World Superbike again the week after that. So don't worry, MotoGP takes a break, but the motorcycling world does not. So we will continue.
Yeah, finally they timed something right.
Yeah, but Cole, we got to hear the rest of the story. I mean, obviously you got a hat.
I got a hat. What else you want to know?
Well, I don't know. I saw some bad news. The hat is good news. We were on the west again? Question mark.
Yep, we're on the west again.
How was the weather? We'll start with the weather.
So starting to get to more typical weather. It was only creeping to 90.
Okay, that's not too bad for July in Utah.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It still felt pretty miserable, and it's a dry heat, but
Yeah.
it was pretty hot. But this Legion race we just mentioned, so we'll be at 102, 103 by the middle of this week.
Jeez.
So it's gonna be worse. It's gonna be worse, but I don't know. Cardio is important. I don't know if it's just cardio though. I mean, I think you can be pretty healthy, and it still makes it rough to run when it's hot and
Yeah.
in the sun and all that stuff. But we had kind of a crash fest, man.
Eesh.
I don't know if you've been seeing any of the Instagram pictures, but we had somebody. I don't know. I shouldn't put this out there, I guess, but I didn't witness it myself. But the lady at the gate when I came in said somebody had made it to the wall on a motorcycle and broke some ribs and tore ACL. There was a bike start on fire
Okay.
that's making its rounds on Instagram. It was burning. The gentleman was off the bike, holding it up, waiting for the fire trucks to get there, which were there within 20 seconds, mind you. They did
Mm-hmm.
their job as good as could be expected. It's a big track. They were there within 20 seconds, but the gentleman was holding the bike up and it was burning. And eventually the flames were big enough that he had to push it over into the dirt.
Yeah. So
And
I saw that video of him holding the bike up, and it weirded me out a little bit because if it's my bike, It starts on fire. Like it's terrible, and I'm sorry. It, it's a terrible weekend. It's not fun. But I was a little confused because in my head I was like, all right, take the bike, get it as far away from the track as possible, lay it down, and start picking dirt up and putting dirt on it. See if you can get that fire to go out. Because the more you can save, the better, right? If you let the fire burn, everything's gonna melt down, and then you're done. Which I wasn't there, and I understand in the moment, sitting on the sidelines watching a video on Instagram is a lot easier to be like, oh well, I would have completely saved the situation. I would have carried the bike over to the lake, Great Salt Lake, real quick, and dipped it in there to wash it off, and then brought it back and rebuilt. Anyway, I understand that, but it was a little interesting.
If it was my baby, I would have stopped, dropped, and rolled.
Yeah, you just do the somersault with the bike and then end up back on the track, fires out, and you're good to go.
Right. Could have hit. Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting weekend for that, and a lot of people really couldn't put their fingers on it because it was hot. And traditionally at Utah, we've had a few nice weather races at this point,
Right.
but this year has been a little weird. We started with the snowstorm, round one.
Yeah.
We had rain and cold, round two,
Yeah.
and now round three it's hot. So a lot of people speculated that it's the first warm, hot track. So everybody's pushing out there trying to set the world on fire. I don't know if that was the case, but we were lowering the numbers on the Dunlops. I'll tell you that.
All right. All right.
I mean, there's some of those tires, some of those slicks, man. They just don't work anymore when it gets hot. So you got to start going down the range looking for stickier tires.
You just talking like compound difference?
Yeah,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah. So far this year, I've been running R8s. I'm getting a ton of life out of them. They're awesome.
R8
And
is on the hard side, correct?
yes,
Okay.
and they just won't when it starts getting this hot. They're no good no more. They're just not.
Interesting.
They're just
So
not working.
do you go softer?
So you go softer.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I'm not a tire guy, and the tire compound stuff will always uh, every time I read a new article about tires, I'm re-amazed by the amount of technology that's in rubber. I really just thought it was, we take a bunch of rubber, which I think grows on trees. I don't know. Back me up on that, someone. Uh,
It's not anymore.
yeah.
But
Anyway, so there you go. That's about how much I know. Then we just do all this crazy chemical additives and different processes, and eventually we get a tire, and it's freaking awesome.
well, I think like I don't want to get into a tire discussion that deep today, but the the different compounds like you're talking about when they're so cold or so hot, they don't function like they're supposed to anymore
Right.
in cold weather. So it's not so much just about a softer tire. It's about
In the operating temperature range. I've been told
yeah.
that by I forget who it was. I want to say that was Chris Hamlet that we had on the show, that we had that conversation with, where it was less about like, well, you don't just go to a soft sticky because it's soft and sticky, because if it's super cold or super hot or whatever, right, each tire has its specified, I want this temperature range. And we don't need to you're right, we don't need to get into tires tonight. Well, I mean, it sounds like a not so good kind of weird weekend, but
No,
you've heard.
the weekend was great, man. You're catching me at a point where I just got back
Mm-hmm.
and I'm feeling the effects. I'm still trying to decompress a little bit myself. It was a wild weekend. It makes you realize, these people club level, otherwise, even at club level, we always say even at club level to win a championship in these clubs, there's so much that can happen, and there's so much dedication that has to happen to. Hey, it was the 4th of July weekend. I
Mm-hmm.
have family things, maybe I'm skipping the family barbecue because the racetrack happened to schedule a race on that day. And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm serious about this championship, you better be there. Mechanical things, you wreck a bike, you blow up a bike, you all those things, and not everybody can afford or can make it back, depending on what problem they may have in the round before. It's carnage is what it is. It's carnage. I had my brother there this week.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother kept making jokes about there was more bikes coming off the track on trailers than there was going out on track to race. And of course, that was an exaggeration, but to sit there and watch, you're like, yeah, there's another guy that's got to go pound that bike together. Let's see how serious he is about being back next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just to back you up, it'll never cease to amaze me how, like you mentioned, the dedication, and my hats off to all of you that are out there doing it. Please keep it up. I love it. It's awesome. But I mentioned it somewhere once. I was like, these guys, and you being one of them, you're getting out there spending your own money to go race your buddies who are also spending their own money at the end of the day, just so you have a little bit of clout compared to that guy next to you saying like, "Yeah, man, I'm faster than you."
Yep.
When all of you could just not spend the money and maybe be better off from a, random normal, quote unquote normal person standpoint, but you got a dream, you're going to chase it, and that's what it takes, and that's awesome. But yeah, it's crazy when you think about you got one guy, or maybe him and a friend or whatever, but they're running essentially the entire team. Like, you got to get there. You got to get all your stuff set up. You got to get your tires changed. You got to set your tire pressures. You got to make sure that everything's good to go. You got to realize that you need a different compound because it's too hot outside. Then you got to go race, bring it back in, get it on the stands, get the warmers on. And when you have an awesome pit member in your pit or someone to help you out, that can help lighten that load a little bit. And that's awesome. But not everyone has that. And even then, it's, compared to having a full race team behind you, it's nuts.
Yeah,
So,
definitely,
and
definitely a
then
different scenario.
Yep, and then, in the back of your head, maybe you finally got it out of the back of your head, but at some point, there's gotta be some little something somewhere like, "Hey, don't bend it because we wanna come back next week, and I don't know if we can fix it that fast because I gotta work so I can pay to fix it," and, like,
Yeah,
oh,
I thought about it. I was, for those familiar, we were on the west track, turn 8. I was sailing through there. I really like that corner.
mhm,
Um, was sailing through there, knee on the ground, stressing out because I needed to go faster. I needed to do this or that or whatever. And I found I found my mind thinking, dude, you're going really fast and this is fun, like a roller coaster, like, whee! And, maybe there's a part of it that's just fun that way, right? It's
yeah,
maybe more, I don't know, on a track day you go around and you're looking for the butterflies in your stomach, maybe, or you're trying to, you know I get to drive my bike fast.
yeah,
And when you're racing, depending on your level of competitiveness, I guess, um, there's a lot that goes into it that people never realize. I mentioned my brother was there, and he
mhm.
had his buddy Ray with him, and I think they were a little blown away just on the prep and how serious everybody's taking it.
Yeah, it's not just show up with a motorcycle and go ride it a little fast. Yeah. It is nuts, and I think that's something that even I can say I never quite realized. It's just kind of that ladder that I've been talking about this a lot, the ladder of motorcycle riding and racing. But you buy a motorcycle and you're like, yeah, cool. And you see MotoGP, maybe you might know what that is, and you just like that's it. You're one step below that. If you started racing, that's where you would be. And I don't need to do that. Then you go do a track day and you realize that like, oh, okay, there's track days. That's cool. And then you get like deep into track days and you start doing a decent amount of prep, and then you catch a club racer, and it's like a track down freaking steroids. And then you catch a club racer crazy enough to go try one Moto America race, and that's insane. That's like an entire year worth of planning for one race. Then a couple of those guys get together and they go do a whole season. Eventually, then you finally start getting to the point where you're doing, maybe you have a team behind you, and that team helps a lot. And I think it gets a little better. It starts to turn the page a little bit right there, but up to that point, yeah, it's wild the amount of
So
it ain't just
let, let's talk about support groups real quick.
okay.
I was one of the unfortunate ones that, may or may not have had a bike hauled out on a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, shout out to my guys. Before I had, pulled my suit off,
Yeah.
there were 5 guys around that bike. It had gone through the dirt on a couple sides before I had got my suit off. It had been to a hose. It had been sprayed off. The panels were removed. The clip-ons had been changed. I mean, the broken parts had been taped back together. Everything had been straightened out. Tools had been put on. Check the forks. Make sure the brake. Everything tore off, put back together. I mean, if there would have been a race 30 minutes later, I could have made it. And I barely touched a bolt. So shout out to all you guys that helped me out there without me asking. Just fixed it, got her done, and that was on Saturday. We were able to compete on Sunday. She's not going to win any fashion shows at the moment, but
but she's racing.
But she's racing and she's driving straight, and she got me a win today. That's the hat.
Oh,
and I mean, I don't know how. Maybe I always say, maybe for another time, but wouldn't ever know where to start and begin. I think you guys, the listeners, probably felt some of the last time Anthony was on with us, and we come fresh off of a race weekend, and the highs, the lows in our, let's call it our group. There were 6 bikes there this weekend.
Okay.
There were 6 bikes in that group. We had one mechanical failure that went back on a trailer early on and left. We had my crash. We had another member of the group crash. That's just in our little group. So, I mean, those things happen. And, if you love the sport, you put them back together and you put them back on the track and you hope everybody's still walking straight. And like I said, I don't mean to keep bringing up my brother, but somebody from outside looking in, they're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
It's like, you've never been under the helmet going around those corners at that speed. You don't realize what it's worth.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's good. Get back, roll it back, send it again. Got to get another hat.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, just need a stack of hats. That's what it's all about. Oh, well, that's good. Glad to hear that the BMW is still, in fact, riding straight. Sorry about the graphics, but that's how it goes sometimes. Race bikes will be race bikes,
Yeah, well, I wish it was just that. It's never as easy as just that, but
Yeah.
we got a lot of spare parts in the thing.
Well, that's good. Hopefully we can get it ready to go perfect for Legion next weekend. And like I said, looking forward to that. And I think that's where we will leave you all for the night.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, once again, I want to thank everyone for listening, for being here, either listening or watching. If you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, go check it out. And if you lasted this entire episode, it was a little bit of a shorter one. Feel free to go check out the RSS linked below. Find your platform you want to listen on and go follow us on there so you can just listen on your commute or I don't know. I think some people like listening in the garage while you're working on a bike, or we could be your pre-race mantra. I don't know. Anyway, whatever it is, whenever it is that you decide to listen, we appreciate it. And We'll see you all next week.
See you next week.